very moment we could look at my house.
You know, I want to be strong, and she was very adamant about it.
I said, no.
By the time most ultrasounds are done, around 18 weeks or so, doctors can sometimes make out sex. But in the early weeks, it's impossible. Take a look at a 7-week-old embryo. Try to guess what sex it is. Think it's a boy? Believe it or not, this is not a penis, at least not yet. It might become one, but it can just as easily turn into a clitoris, a female sex organ. At this stage, boys and girls look exactly alike, and not just on the outside. Inside, there are 2 gonads, which could become testicles or ovaries. And there are 2 sets of tubes, one in case it's a boy, the other for a girl. Of course, there's one way to tell the difference. Look at the chromosomes in a cell from the embryo. One pair among the 23 determines sex. An embryo with 2 X chromosomes usually becomes a girl. If one of those X's is a Y, it will most likely be a boy. Recently, scientists came up with a good idea of how this works. There are only about 30 genes on the Y chromosome. One of them is called SRY. This gene seems to function just once in a lifetime, late in the 6th week of embryonic development, and only in one place, the gonad. SRY turns on for a day or 2, and the cells churn out its protein. But in that short time, SRY sets off a chemical chain reaction, turning on other genes, eventually turning the gonads into testicles, which begin to make testosterone. Testosterone travels throughout the body. If it reaches the genitals, then the cells here will build the penis. But if there are 2 X chromosomes and no Y, different genes get turned on and the gonads become ovaries. The embryo becomes a baby girl. This is the power of genes, creating cascades of chemical reactions, defining the form and function of all the cells in your body. Sometimes genes send a message to multiply and grow, as with the arm and leg buttons. Sometimes the message is to die, as it is a few days later to the cells between the fingers. As the weeks pass, the embryo's genes send billions of individual messages, constructing new kinds of cells and building organs and limbs. 2 months after fertilization, the embryo is now called a fetus. Almost all its organs are in place, though they're not working yet. The whole fetus is just over an inch long and weighs less than a third of an ounce. Over the next 6.5 months, it will grow almost 400 times larger and prepare for birth. All of this demands a constant supply of nutrients.
So it's really a little frustrated because he thought he was going to be able to go out and get me whatever I craved and whatever I wanted. And I had the problem of I didn't want anything or crave anything until I smelled it. And I had to smell my food before I would eat it. I had to cook a meal. And it didn't smell right when I was done with it, just because I put the wrong spice in there or something, but I couldn't eat it.
What about this thing? We go on our walks. We sometimes just surround in the square. Cure them to smell it first. Just see what caught her fancy at that time.
I'm still like that. I still really want to smell my food. And if I smell something, I'm just like, oh, I have to have that. I have that now.
It's no surprise that Melinda might be especially hungry. The fetus she's carrying has only one source for all the raw materials it needs to grow into a baby. Melinda's blood, which is systematically rated into the health of the placenta. The placenta began to form as soon as the blastocyst burrowed into the mother's uterus. And in the early weeks, it dwarfed the embryo. The underside of the placenta is covered with thousands of tiny projections called villi, which lie in pools of the mother's blood. Without ever mixing the blood of mother and child, the villi grab oxygen and nutrients. The enriched blood flows about 1.5 feet through the umbilical cord back to the fetus, whose heart beats about twice as fast as an adult's. The heart is one of the few organs that actually work during the earliest weeks of development. But with other organs, function comes later. With the eye, although the retina and lens are well formed by the 9th week, the fetus doesn't respond to light until the 5th or 6th month. And the same for the ear. The outer ear hardly takes shape, but the fetus can't hear yet. Sound conduction relies on the tiny bones of the inner ear, and most of the bones in the fetus start out as cartilage. By the 4th month, hard bone can be seen forming in the hand and the leg. Finally, after 5 months, the process is complete in the inner ear. And then, the fetus begins to hear sound. I would sing songs right on the belly, just so that it could hear my voice and get to know my voice. One of the first times I did that, the baby Later in pregnancy, when the mother's body seems to be changing the most, life in the womb can appear, well, a bit uneventful. All the organ systems are in place, so during the last trimester, the fetus's main job is to grow. But a few crucial events are unfolding beneath the skin. Fat deposits are forming, building reserves the baby will rely on after birth. But even more important, fat is getting laid down in the brain. In the 6th month, genes in the brain order the manufacture of a fatty substance called myelin, which wraps around the long connections between brain cells. This fatty covering allows nerve impulses to travel up to 100 times faster, greatly enhancing brain power. The process will continue for years after the baby is born. The brain's hunger for fat in the last trimester puts an enormous strain on the mother. Over the course of the pregnancy, her body has increased its own blood supply by about 50%, all for the sake of the rapidly growing baby. But late in pregnancy, the baby's need for fat becomes so great, the mother can't keep up. If it stays inside, the baby will begin to starve. Somehow, it's got to get out.
I've only had like one anxiety attack, and it was the moment I was in the bathroom and I just had thoughts of like, how's this baby gonna get out? I just don't think he's gonna make it out. And I hadn't really thought about it up until that very moment where I was just like, no.
Giving birth is one of the most amazing experiences a woman can have. It can also be one of the most painful. Again and again, the uterus contracts as the cervix opens up.